I asked you guys to ask me questions in the form of a graphic design Q&A, so let's jump right into that today. What is up people, welcome back to Satori Graphics, the home of graphic design content right here on YouTube. Let me check how hot it is because it is really hot today. So over on Instagram I asked you guys to ask me questions and you asked me a lot of really good questions. You can ask me anything, it doesn't have to be about graphic design, but this week they were all graphic design related questions. I do these Q&As every 1 or 2 weeks, so if you want to join in on the next one, give me a follow on Instagram and ask me a question when you see the post on Instagram. It's really hot today and I can't put on the air conditioning or the fan because I'm making this video, so if I look a bit hot, I am. Anyway, the first question comes from Sean Dirth and it says, would you recommend buying a Pantone book or are they a waste of money? So a Pantone book is really useful if you work on a lot of print projects. Now there are no digital alternatives to a Pantone print book, and a Pantone print book would allow you to access the colour visually perfectly as opposed to looking on a screen. Me personally, I've never actually used a Pantone book and I've gotten by just fine in my design work. My advice would be that if you've got the money to spend on one, then why not get one? It can't do any harm. But like I said, I've never really used one and I've gotten by just fine. The next question comes from Patrick and he says, what is the best place to find clients online? Now I always say the best way to get clients is to have a good portfolio, but it's kind of catch-22 because to have work in your portfolio you need clients, right? But there are good ways to get work into your portfolio, such as entering design competitions or even working on pro bono projects for free. There are places like peopleperhour.com where you can freelance yourself as a designer, but you need to be aware that there are many people on there and it's a very saturated market where people design logos for $5 or $10 a pop, which is ludicrous. But you need to get active on social media, you need to get on things like Twitter and Behance and put your work everywhere you can. You need to market yourself as a designer in this day and age on all forms of social media as much as possible. Sabir asks how to make a sketch logo using Image Trace and Illustrator. I actually have quite many tutorials where we use that function, and I'm aware it can be tricky to image trace a sketch in Illustrator. However, if you open up the sketch in Photoshop, you can then increase the contrast, you can increase the brightness and the exposure and stuff like that. So you can really get the sketch lines to pop and the paper to be white on the background, almost bleached. So the trick is to get the sketch as dark and as defined as possible in Photoshop and then bring that over to Illustrator where you can easily define between the sketch and the paper. Raf asks, what was your first computer for designing? Way back when I was in university, I actually had a MacBook. It was one of the really old school white thick MacBooks, and that was the first one I had. Then after that I moved on to an Acer, I think, and now I've gone back to Mac again, and I don't think I'm going to go back to Windows, but that's just my personal preference. It really is hot today. Kevin asks, how do you know when your logo is actually finished? When you get paid, right? There are many ways to tackle this question, but an artist can ruin their work if they keep going back to it and changing it. However, a logo design, I actually feel that the more you go back to it and refine it, the more ideas and the more it evolves and more it develops. But when it's finished, in my opinion, is when the client thinks it's finished. However, you should have some kind of control over your client and you shouldn't be pushed around. You should always charge for added time spent on a logo design. You should write up a contract with the client beforehand to say any amendments and changes over the agreed deadline or budget need to be added on as extras. So that's quite important to keep in mind. Obedient Tosh asks, if a client is forcing the designer to do something which the designer knows didn't go well with the design, then what should the designer do? This kind of ties into the question before in regards to the client and the designer relationship. You need to have a good relationship with the client. It also needs to be mutual. You need to know your place and they need to know their place. You're the professional here, you're the one with the eye for design. So if you know something doesn't work for the brand, you need to tell them why it doesn't work and what you think the alternative is. But you need to do this in a skillful manner, so be polite and also be forthcoming with what your ideas are and why they work. Always explain why you're doing something to a client. The Paintbrush asks, hi, I'm looking forward to putting a PC together for graphic design work, and I'd like to know what configuration for PC will run Illustrator and Photoshop smoothly. I'm afraid I've never set up a PC before and I don't use PC for my design work, so I can't really offer you much help there, but what I will say is that you need to have enough RAM memory, of course, and also you need to have a graphics card that's going to work. But yeah, you should research on Google about this because I'm not the guy to ask, I'm sorry. Connor asks, do you have a logo that you're really proud of in the past as one of your best works for a client? And I do actually. I think it was back in 2014. I designed a logo for a fashion label in Gambia, and I stumbled upon a fashion website where I actually saw my logo online, which as a designer, that's kind of like one of the best things that could ever happen to you. You know, coming across your logo being used on bags and in a fashion show and stuff like that. That was really cool. So yeah, I'm proud of that logo the most. Jimmy Noir asks, how long did it take you to get noticed as a graphic designer? There wasn't one specific moment where I felt like I've been recognized. It kind of just happened gradually. But like I said earlier in this video, you need to get really into social media for marketing yourself as a designer. I think YouTube has really helped me get noticed as well. But get involved in Facebook groups, you know, use Twitter, use hashtags in Instagram, everything like that. All the good stuff. But keep pumping out work and keep publicizing that work on social media. And eventually you'll get there. And those were the questions for today's Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, let me know in the comment section below, and also give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to join in on the next Q&A, which is going to be in 1 or 2 weeks, give me a follow on Instagram, and when I make a post asking you for questions, go ahead and ask me whatever you want. Wow, it says it's 31 degrees C, which feels like 38 degrees Celsius, and I've got no fan or no air conditioning on, so that's what I go through for you guys. Feels like I'm in a sauna right now. But yeah, anyway, I hope you have a great weekend, and I'm going to be back on Monday with more graphic design content. So until next time, design your future today. Peace.